Good afternoon, DK.
Good afternoon, Sowmiya.
Just wanted to describe the events of this morning, which was the ADMK General Council, which was quite an adventurous morning. Usually the events happen in a large marriage hall, which has always been the tradition.
So basically, take our viewers through this meeting and the background. What was the background of this General Council meeting and how important is it?
Background was basically 2 weeks of back and forth between these two leaders. As you know, there are two main faces of the ADMK here, O. Paneerselvam and Edappadi Palaniswamy. On the 14th, they had a district secretary meeting, which sort of ended up all over the place in terms of people revealing what was said inside, which was a call for single leadership. So a former minister, Mr. D. Jayakumar, came out and spoke to the press and revealed that there was some, call to hark back to the single leadership rather than the current dual leadership. So at this point, ADMK has two people heading, both EPS and OPS, as the coordinator and the co-coordinator. And what EPS supporters asked for is, let's go back to a general secretary post, which is what party supremo previously J. Jayalalitha was holding. Let's go back to that particular scenario again. Let's not do a dual leadership. So this happened 2 weeks ago on a Tuesday, and it has been a complete back and forth since on leading up to today morning, where in the last few days, there was a constant tug of supporters. So as we know now, there are 75 district secretaries of the AIADMK in Tamil Nadu, of which a majority of 64 support EPS and the remaining support OPS. Just in the last few days, we even saw out of the 6 people started moving across to the EPS camp. The two men live literally
something like what's happening in Maharashtra. Something like what's happening in Maharashtra, where Shivsena MLAs are
definitely less.
One by one,
I would say less dramatic, because they're not crossing state borders. They are literally crossing a 1 kilometer radius where the two men live in pretty much in the same neighborhood called Greenways Road in Chennai. And there has been a lot of support for EPS suddenly ratcheting up. More and more general council members have come in support. People have gone to his residence. This is the same residence he lived in as the chief minister as well. So he lives in this bungalow in Greenways Road. In the last few days, every time ThePrint has visited his house, there's a constant stream of people coming in and out. And essentially, it was very clear that in the last few days, the support was clearly on the EPS camp. OPS, on the other hand, went to court.
Just to tell our viewers who are not necessarily watching Tamil Nadu politics very clearly, the background has been, after the death of J. Jayalalitha in December 2016, there was this phase where Sasikala was trying to take over. She became general secretary, and then there was rebellion against her. Then you had the different camps, one camp led by Paneerselvam, another camp led by Palaniswamy. Then both of them came together. They ousted Jayalalitha. So there was this general council meeting in 2017 where they decided that Jayalalitha would be the eternal general secretary, the permanent general secretary, and in her place there will be dual leadership of the party.
Right.
One will be like joint coordinator. And later on, when the elections also happened, probably last year, it was decided that there will be election actually happened when the national executive happened. There they decided that there will be a single vote to elect both. And there has been a lot of debate. So since 2017, this joint leadership has been working for the AIADMK.
Yes, absolutely. In fact,
now it's unraveling.
Today, the joke was that in 2017, when they met to merge. And today in 2022, when they're meeting to split. So it's come full circle is what the consensus was outside, because it was the same venue. It was the same level of drama in 2017, except as press people, we were not privy to that. They were much more guarded on what was to be the merger. Whereas today, like you said, there is a clear winner. Today, what we saw was not two men, powerful men coming together. It was a very clearly one person having all of the majority support and the other person walking off stage in a huff. There was real drama in the hall where OPS actually felt like he needed to leave the premises immediately.
So E.K. Palaniswamy is the winner And in fact, General Council is going to meet on what, 11th of July again?
Yes, on July 11th, exactly. So today is the only, none of the resolutions went through today. There were 23 on the table. But the one thing that they did do is vote for the sort of the ADMK Presidium Chairman. So that's the post that they actually elected, a man named Tamil Magan Hussain. He announced today on July 11th at 9:15 in the morning that the whole General Council will once again convene and discuss this issue of single leadership and in fact deliberate on it properly and vote on it as well. Okay.
All right, are there some questions from the viewers? Let's take the questions now.
The other thing which was interesting, DK, just before we answer some questions, is the idea of who supported EPS today. Just to describe all of the big names in the ADMK, one after the other started reading resolutions in support of him, came up to the mic and said, single leadership is something that we need to talk about. Single leadership is something we need to discuss. Let's, in fact, abandon the 23 resolutions on the agenda. Let's talk about this exact. And why I said drama was, it was a very different feel to when Jayalalitha was alive and in power. Apparently, just to give you a visual of what I saw, there was literally 2 elephants at the entrance, which were fake elephants made to sing and whatever, I mean, make noises. And I asked somebody what this was. It's, Amma used to like elephants, so we keep up the tradition of bringing these elephants to the venue. People everywhere I spoke to, before the meeting began, after the meeting ended, I walked around asking people what their thoughts were. Before, they were waiting patiently for EPS to come to the venue. He came a whole 1 hour after OPS. So OPS reached at 10:30 a.m. EPS came at 11:22 a.m. People were just walking around waiting for him. And when I said, who do you support? What are your thoughts? Everyone unilaterally said, we support EPS because we are in a crisis situation in some respects in the state. We are not seen as the principal opposition. The BJP is making a lot of noise. The BJP has a president who is a former IPS officer who knows exactly when to talk and when to make a point against the DMK. We need to have a clearer sort of perspective on when to hit back at the ruling party. So we need someone, and the person we think is much more vocal and who has steered the government quite clearly in the last few years, the last years of the government was EPS, and so we support him. So all of these people had come from across the state. So what we see as a general council is a culmination of different districts and those committee members all coming to Chennai for this one whole day of events where they sit and deliberate and talk about the happenings. Each of them they cared for the party. They kept telling me, despite all these names, we don't want the AIADMK to split. They were very worried about the split in the core.
Sowmiya, let's look at the bigger picture. Where is the AIADMK heading? So you have said, okay, Palaniswamy has emerged as the winner, and on the 11th, when the General Council meets again, obviously the single leadership resolution will be through.
Right.
And given the kind of support Palaniswamy is enjoying, and the support you saw at the General Council meeting today, I mean, we know who we are talking about when we talk about the single leadership. So what's the genesis of this entire conflict? From 2017, things were working very fine. What has gone wrong?
I think a very clear understanding that this situation of 2 people making decisions is not working out for them. It is causing a lot of administrative delays in decision making. It's causing a lot of setbacks and so on. So what they feel is, let's streamline to one. Let's then strategize on how we negotiate with the BJP if we are going to be in alliance for the Lok Sabha. Let's also become firmer in our own understanding and strategy as a party, put ourselves more on social media, be more available to people, let them see that we are still present. We have not died out. I think it is a crisis of identity, to be very honest. It is a bit of an identity crisis on the part of the ADMK. The bigger picture is, how do they fit into 2022 Tamil Nadu with a strong DMK in power, with the BJP making a whole bunch of noise? Where do we stand? And in that context with the ADMK, they are very aware that they need the BJP going forward in the Lok Sabha elections. So they're also waiting and watching on what basis that relationship will work out in the future. So this is really the
Sowmiya, sorry to interrupt. If you look at the real winner, it's not exactly the AIADMK, because any disruptions in the AIADMK, further disruptions, will help the BJP. You saw the BJP did pretty well in the urban local body polls. I think it was in January, February this year. Even though in terms of vote share, it might not be very significant. But the point was the BJP had contested alone. And now the BJP is looking to actually emerge as the principal opposition party. It's very difficult for a national party. After the Congress got out of power in Tamil Nadu, I think in 1967.
Right.
After that, all Congress has been kind of piggybacking on one Dravidian party or the other. So for the BJP to come out there to emerge as a principal opposition party, it's right now it looks very improbable, because BJP
Absolutely, DK. I do believe that they do not have the numbers. They don't have the foot soldiers. They don't have the cadre yet. What I was in my discussions this morning, standing in that hall with all of the general council around, was that AIADMK at the core of it has still a strong presence among cadres, right? Which the BJP doesn't. Someone made a comment today. If the BJP was holding a similar general council in this hall, they would barely be able to fill even half the chairs. Their argument was they also need the AIADMK to survive for any future sort of inroads into the state. So it does feel like both of these parties are watching each other to figure out what best strategy will work for them going forward. That's really the sense I'm getting.
Sowmiya, tell me, this leadership tussle in the AIADMK, who does it help, or which party does it help?
The
leadership tussle.
The leadership tussle. I think
Paneerselvan may not, just accept as it is on the 11th that, Palaniswamy becomes the single leader or the general secretary or whatever designation is given then. What happens to Paneerselvan? Does he revolt? Does he quit the party? Does he go back to Sasikala and Dinkaran and, float?
To be very honest, we still have a few weeks to go for the interim general council, and the word on the street is OPS is going to go through the legal route, right? Yesterday, he went to court asking for general council to be stopped. We are going to see a similar sort of development in the next few weeks, where he goes to court asking that things have not gone as per the bylaws of the party. Who does this tussle benefit? At this stage, very obviously, it benefits EPS. It benefits his leadership. It benefits his core group. It also...
let's look at the larger context of the state.
Right.
The principal opposition party seems to be going down. Which are the new players which may benefit from this?
I mean, definitely the BJP to an extent. Definitely. I think the confusion in the AIADMK is not looking good for them. And the BJP is definitely capitalizing. They have already in the last few months and already in the last 1 year talked about, we are more vocal. We are bringing you all of the issues that ideally the AIADMK should be talking about, right? Till recently, we saw the nutrition scam that Annamalai spoke about against the DMK government. They are saying we are the ones holding the government to, to accountability or to responsibility. So in that sense, definitely the BJP is waiting and watching. And it's very curious that they haven't openly commented on this tussle, but they are wondering which way it's going to shift. I am not entirely sure who. So one argument is Annamalai and EPS are close because they both come from the same caste group. On the other side is OPS and Shashikala seem to be close and have a certain sort of past relationship. So again, it is how this progresses, how these dynamics play out in the next few months is going to be really interesting to watch.
Basically, look, the BJP's game plan would be to actually emerge at the AIADMK's cost in Tamil Nadu. Look, when we talk about both Palaniswamy and Annamalai being from the same Gounder community, now that becomes a bigger challenge to Palaniswamy. Because if you look at the last election results, Out of the 4 MLAs that they got, the BJP, 2 were from the so-called Congo region.
Right.
That is your western region. That is the stronghold of Palaniswamy.
Yeah.
So he will be feeling a bit threatened. And plus, so look, initially from the beginning, you have seen how the BJP was directly involved in keeping these factions together. In fact, in the past also, it was before the 2 camps had merged in 2017. The agreement had been arrived at, or in fact, the Prime Minister had actually intervened. Both Palaniswamy, OPS and EPS, they are going to meet the Prime Minister in Delhi. There the agreement was raised. They came back, then the merger happened. And OPS has been talking about it. Only the other day, you were talking about the OPS revealing that, it was only after the Prime Minister called him that he decided to join the cabinet then.
Absolutely.
So BJP has been directly involved. The BJP's plan was to kind of, piggyback on the AIADMK to basically grow its roots there, to expand its footprint.
Right. Absolutely.
That had been the plan. Now it has become a pretty strong voice, not in terms of its influence in Tamil Nadu as such, because if you talk about urban local body polls, you look at the results also, it's limited to a certain area, say Kanyakumari. So out of over 300 wards they had won in both municipalities and corporations and town panchayats. About 200 of them were from Kanyakumari. So in terms of footprints, the BJP has not expanded that much. But the fact is they have become very vocal. They're everywhere. They're being discussed everywhere. You look at any TV channel in Tamil Nadu, as I'm told, I'm not there. You always have BJP spokespersons. For a party which got just about 2.45% of the votes in the last assembly elections, to have that kind of presence is a big leap.
So you're absolutely right. In fact, everywhere you go and you ask anyone, they will know at least the president of the BJP state, right? Annamalai is a very prominent face. He's constantly talking about issues. So whether they vote for him or support him or not, the face is a recognizable face. So they've done a good job of definitely capturing all the sort of ways to be heard. And Konganadu is definitely a place where this is going to pan out, also because both of them are from that same region. There are sort of I guess undercurrents of the BJP making huge inroads there as well as Kanyakumari. Just in terms of cadre, like you said, they really just need the AIADMK to piggyback. They can't do this on their own yet. Their base is still very, very small. So in terms of benefit, I would still say how this pans out, this confusion within the AIADMK is something that is right now hugely benefiting the BJP in terms of at least saying they are preoccupied in infighting. We can find ways to expand a bit more. And they're very confident over and over again in the last few weeks. All of the main BJP leaders in Tamil Nadu have said, we will grow. Despite the AIADMK, we will grow. We are making all of the efforts to do so. So I think one thing that I heard again from an AIADMK party leader was they also have the backing of the central government, central party in terms of state, in terms of funds, in terms of support, in terms of like a larger voice. So that does come out as a plus point for them, money and funds coming in from the central party to help them grow in Tamil Nadu.
All right, Sowmiya, thank you very much for sharing your views with our viewers with us. Thanks a lot. If there are any questions, let's take them up. Otherwise, we can just wind up.
I think there are a few questions. Do you think OPS and VKS will tide over sympathy wave against EPS? And there was another question on whether we would see a Dharma Yuddham 2.0, where OPS went to Jayalalitha's memorial and meditated there. I think those days are already over. He already tried that a few days ago and it wasn't very successful. In terms of a sympathy wave, again, just like the BJP is being quiet, Shashikala too hasn't said anything about this sort of internal tussle. I think in the next few weeks, we will have to wait and see if she reacts publicly. At this stage, there's a lot of back channel conversations. And what I'm finding is people are largely saying she's staying out of this and she's just going to wait and watch as to what happens.
All right, Sowmiya. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.